Can you move that little thing? No, it's okay. Uh-uh. Okay. Hello.
Good evening.
Hello. Welcome. Welcome. It is normally our Testimony Tuesday, but today it is Witness Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
And so we are so excited that you are joining us on today. Please let us know if you are able to hear us. So if someone could just put something in the chat, let us know that you are able to hear us on today. We added another little camera that has a little microphone on it. And so I just want to make sure you're able to hear us. Minister Hanks, are you able to hear us? Yes.
Very good.
Yes,
Very
yay. So thank you all for joining us for Witness Wednesday. It would normally be our Testimony Tuesday where we share about the goodness of the Lord. Thank you, Sarah. Um, thank you, Miss Wandra. Thank you, Miss Letha. Um, where we tell about the goodness of the Lord and just what He has done and He is doing
Yes.
in people's lives. And as you have heard from the testimonies, the Lord is doing amazing things. And so on tonight, um, November the 9th, 2022, 13 years later,
Yes.
we thought it was time for us to just share our story. So we've been telling everybody else's. And so we want you all to know how good God is and how gracious He is and how just how wonderful He is and what a keeper He is. And so on tonight, we are going to share with you some of our most intimate moments, really, surrounding this event. We are excited. We have two special people joining us on today. And I'm really, really shocked. So, we tell the story from our point of view, but we have children who experience this as well. And so soon we're going to add our children, well, one of our children to the stream, and he's going to kind of give you his perspective on it. So we are super excited to have him on tonight. We are excited to have LaShawn joining us on tonight. She is our children's godmother. Every one of our children.
Every last one of them.
She's the one who started the Red Robin epidemic.
Absolutely. So we'll have to tell them a little more so they'll understand Red Robin. But yes, I asked if you don't mind to tag someone, share it with someone. I don't even know the right terms to even say tag, share. Okay. If they are like, tag, and share, like, tag, and share, send some. Well, Gabe would say subscribe if we were on YouTube, which we do have a YouTube channel for those who are not on Facebook and you want them to watch on tonight. Hey, Mickey, we ask that you go ahead and they can go to June and Ayana on YouTube and join us there. And they're able to watch it there as well. So if they're not on Facebook, they are able to watch it on YouTube. So today is the day.
Today is the day.
Today is the day.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off by the scripture in Revelation that says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. And I'm telling you, there is so much power in the testimony. And when I hear people talk about their stories, like, it blesses our lives really good. And so on tonight, we are going to share our story, and we're going to go ahead and bring our baby up. Hey, Kai. So he is joining us on today. I'm super excited to have him joining us on today. Hello, everybody that has joined us on today. I can't see all of the names. I see Miss Hattie and Miss Roslyn and Miss Robin have joined us as well. Thank you all for joining. Miss Barbara Perry, Minister Barbara Perry, thank you for joining us on tonight. All right, so here we go.
All right. So, take us to life before the tragic event.
Hmm. Life was life. We were just parenting, working,
Yeah.
churching,
One big happy family.
one big happy family. Um, it's so interesting because like our lives was just really our family,
Mhm.
church, work. That was just really our whole routine. Like that was just everything that we did. It was family, church, and work. And so that's how I can describe it. When I think back, um, we just loved each other and we're always there with one another. I feel like we did everything together. Um, and so that was really just it.
Yeah. So that particular day, let's go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that particular day, it was like a normal day. We when I got off work, I would go to the school. When Yana worked at Henderson Middle School, and I would go there, and we would just be there. And she's always the last one to get to work and the last one to leave. So anyway, anyway, we tell the truth, right?
It's the truth.
Okay, yeah,
It's the truth.
yeah.
It's the truth.
So yeah,
Like it
Yes.
was nothing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how I was doing that, but I would just pop up at any time.
And speaking back to that day, it's funny because I had the best boss. I'm telling you, Victor Fenner,
Thank
God
you
bless
for
him.
all of your patience.
all of them. But I just think back to me coming to work, and so we had a routine. So I would drop the kids off at school, and then I would take my lunch really late so that I could go and pick the kids up from school. And so my routine was to go to ACOP and get Makai, Southern Vance, and get Devontae, come back through because Phyllis's mama, Miss Martha, kept Chase. And so I would stop right there, get Chase, and we go into school. Like that was just it because Bria was at Henderson Middle.
Right.
And so she would have cheerleading practice, and we were there, all the time. This particular day, Phyllis comes by the school because she was I get so tickled about it because Mr. Fenner would say, Phyllis, what time did you get to work today?
Yeah. And he would send me on errands a couple times.
Right, because they're just always there. And so, but this particular day, Phyllis stops by and she says, Amber wants to spend some time with Abria.
Oh, wow.
And I look back at that and I'm just like, you know, just, and I don't even know Amber's age at the time, but I just remember her coming to spend some time with Abria. And so Bria gets out of cheerleading practice. We're all there. Chase is asleep. Chase was asleep from the time I picked him up from Miss Martha's house until he transitioned.
Oh, wow.
He slept the entire time. And so that was interesting within itself as well. But I remember Abria coming to the door, her and Mariah running to my office door, and they were so excited because they had just found out that their cheerleading coach, who was Miss Annie Fields, rest in peace, Miss Fields, but she was going to allow them to sit beside one another in basketball season. So they were just so excited. So they come running to my office to tell me that they are now going to be able to cheer on the bench beside one another. And I was just excited for them as well. And as I look back, it's just those moments that I think about her last moments, just so happy, so full of life. And that's who she was. She was really just such a lovable little girl. And so um, so we're at work again. I'm at work and it is like 8 o'clock, and I'm still at Henderson Middle
That's one to leave.
at 8 o'clock at night. And when I look back at it, I remember Reverend Cora Boyd coming into the office, and she, laughed and talked with us, and she said, "Go home, take your family home." And I was like, "Okay," but I was late there because I was doing payroll and finishing up some payroll things. And so I left. We ended up leaving, and we got pizza, went to Pizza Hut and got pizza. And I had to stop by a friend's house, which was Kim Hedgepeth. And we stopped at her house. And when we left Kim's house, we dropped Amber off and we headed home. So it was just a normal routine, but my back had gone out.
Mhm.
And so I had taken some medicine because my back would frequently go out. I could hardly walk. It was just really, really bad. And so my back had gone out, and we got home, and Abria was ready to take her shower. And she said, "Mom, she needed some personal items." And I said, "Okay." I said, "There are none left?" And she said, "No." She said, "I have one." I said, "Well, let me get you some." So I went to June and I was like, "I need you to take me to the store," because I couldn't drive because I had taken the medicine, but I asked him to take me to the store. And he takes me to the store. So Devontae is there, and Chase is still asleep. And I tell Abria, "Lay on the bed with Chase in case he wakes up." And so she did. And Makai and Devontae are in the living room, and they're sitting there, and we run to the store, which is literally 5 minutes up the street. And the craziest thing about it is I never left my kids at home alone.
Right.
And I had several reasons for never leaving them at home alone, but I never did. And so we go to the store, and
mind you, before we got ready to go to the store, when she came to me and said, "I need you to take me to the store," I'm like, "Oh, come on!" I was like, Do you know how many stores we passed
Right.
on the way home?"
Right.
And then we get home, and then like, so yeah. But anyway.
so, but I didn't know at the time. So anyway, we get into and I remember going into the store, and my friend Kim's daughter had just started working there. And I remember picking with her because she had, I don't know if it was a earring or something. And so I was saying, "Yeah, something." I don't even remember whether it was on her mouth or her nose or something. I said, "Something on your face," or something. I was picking at her, and we just laughed. And I went and I got the items, and I remember exactly what I purchased on that night. I remember purchasing what Bria needed. I remember getting her some Midol, and I remember getting some cookies and some juices because Chase could now drink out of a straw. And so I bought him some juices, and I got some baked beans and some Glory greens. And so we pay for our stuff, get into the car, and we're headed home. And when we get to the store, so we're on Andrews Avenue, and we get to where McDonald's and Bojangles are right there. We're at that light, and well, right as we were leaving out of the parking lot, my telephone rang, and it was an odd number, and I answered it, and it was Devontae, and he was hysterical. And I remember him screaming in the phone, "Mommy, the house is on fire, and Bria and Chase are inside." And I don't know what I thought, but I said, "Devontae, tell Bria and Chase to come outside. You all stand at the mailbox. We're on the way." And I remember looking at June and saying, "The house is on fire." But in my mind, I'm not thinking that it's I don't know what kind of fire I thought it was going to be, but I definitely didn't think major.
Right.
And so we get across the bridge, and I remember calling my mom on the phone, and I remember saying to her, "Mama, the house is on fire, and Bria and Chase are inside." And in my mind, I'm talking to her like I'm talking to you, but she couldn't understand me. Okay. So my body was reacting, I guess, outside of my mind because I didn't know it.
Right.
And she kept saying, "What did you say? Like what?" And she couldn't understand me. But the lady that lived up the street was one of her friends, and she ended up calling her and saying that the house was on fire. I feel emotional.
It's okay.
Anyway, finish.
It's okay.
Yeah, so so I'm driving all erratic, trying to get there, and it listen, when I say it happened so fast, it happened like really fast because we were gone no more than, man, 15 minutes,
If that,
if that long, and what from that time when I pulled up on the street, the fire department, the paramedics, everybody, they were already there. So the response time, it was like phenomenal. So
but I want to say this. So June, literally, would I say we were there in? I felt like seconds. Like he
Right.
sped so fast to get us there, and when we got there, we were in the middle of the street. Like I don't even remember him putting the car in park before we both jumped out. But the street is filled with people, and I'm just like, what in the world? Like, so I jump out of the car and I see Devontae and Makai, and the first thing I say to them is, "Where is Abria and Chase?" Like, and Devontae says, "In the house." And when he says in the house, it just, I don't know, it just did something. And so um, after that, I remember um, going up, running up to the police officer who's in the front. And the police officer says, "You all have to go back. You all have to go back." And I said, "Sir, I know where they are. Please just let me show you where they are."
Mm-hmm.
And he's pushing us back. And I remember June running around the house and trying to get in. And I remember him burning his hand because he was trying to get in. And I remember some guys like pulling him, and his truck was in the front yard. And I remember just standing there by his truck. And by this time, he's like across the street in the neighbor's yard. And me and Makai get back into my car. And Makai says, I said, "It's going to be all right, Makai." And he says, "Yeah, right." And then I felt like, so let me rewind. So right before that, my sister calls and says, "Ayana, is something going on?" Now she works at the hospital, so she's at work. All these scanners and stuff are going off. And I said, "Yes, the house is on fire and Bria and Chase are inside." And so she was like, "I'm on my way." And so I remember my mom getting there, and I'm sitting in the car, and I don't see, like, it's like I don't see the people. I know people are there,
Right.
but I can smell, like my sense of smell was just heightened. It was the craziest thing ever. And so I knew people were there by their smell.
Right.
It's the craziest thing I know. And I remember thinking, like, what in the world? Like, what is happening here? And it had just been so long.
Right.
And what really probably was maybe 30 minutes felt like 5 hours.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember saying, so at one point I'm back out of the car and I'm looking across the street at June, and he's literally rolling on the ground. Like he is just, whew, it was rough. And so I remember Edward being there with him. And then I remember, who was the officer at the first one, that Captain Davis. I remember Captain Davis, and I remember Alan Simmons.
Yeah, and so when I pulled up, like I said, they were pushing us back, and I'm literally wrestling with one of the a police officer in the front yard. And if I knew who it was today, I wanted to apologize. However,
It's okay.
so that was
He
before
understands.
I went around to the back of the house where So after I fell, I got up and I went around, and then Wiggins,
Mm.
so he grabbed me and he was like, June, they doing everything they can, just let them do what they, and I was like, man. So it was just so unbelievable, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I remember Robert Wiggins. Um, yeah.
And I remember then, after that, mm, I remember after that thinking like, what is this? And so Captain Davis comes and he says, no, 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 no. Let me rewind before we even go to Captain Davis. You come walking down the street, and I am facing the road. I'm in the road. We're in the middle of the road, and I see you walking down the road. I think you had a hair tie on your head, and I felt like a t-shirt and some tights. I don't even remember, but I see you coming down the road, and I don't move. I see you, and again, I can hear, and I remember hearing you say, I don't know what you said, but I figured that someone had told you.
Right. So I was at home, had been on Facebook, cutting up on Facebook, and it was evening, so I was chilling. I had my hair wrapped. I just laying across the bed and had my laptop, and I got a call from one of our mutual friends, Twyla, and Twyla and I talk sometimes, but it was just like, oh well, she must have seen something silly I said on Facebook, so I'm thinking that's why she's calling me to kind of laugh. And when I answered the phone, she says, Sean, I need you to get to Ayana's house now. And I think there was like some silence, like, why is she, like, why do I have to go to Ayana's house? Like, what's going on? And she said, Sean, now. And if you know Twyla, she can have this sternness in her voice.
Yes.
And so I didn't ask her any questions. I just said, okay. And I got up and I started moving. And I was just putting on shoes or whatever. And I fly out and I'm thinking, I don't know what this is, but I just got to get over there. And so my mom can see, my urgency to get out of the house. And she's saying, hey, what's going on? Where are you going? I said, to Ayana's house. And she's like, well, what's going on? I said, I don't know. They said I need to get over there now and I'm gone. And I don't know if I let her in the house, but she said, wait a minute, I'm getting my shoes. I'm coming with you. And so at this point, we have no idea what we're walking into or what we're going and to see or what's happening. And so as I'm going, I, drive as fast as I can. And when I get to the end of your street, all I can remember is all these blaring lights. That's all you could see were these lights. And I jumped out of the car at the end and I'm like, what? My mom was like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. But when you got out, like you said, you could smell, the smoke from the fire. So, okay, so there's been a fire. Okay, they can get another house, and I'm just thinking we're just going to, okay, there's been a house fire, and that is it. And that's when you saw me approaching your car. So as I'm approaching, you were sitting in your car in the front seat, but there was just this blank stare, and you were just like staring straight ahead, and Phyllis was on the other side. And so I said, I think it was Phyllis, like, what's going on? And she looks at me and she said, oh, you don't know. And I said, no, what? And I think she said, Abria and Chase, and she just kind of shook her head. And I just hit the ground, like literally. It took the wind out of me. And I know you said I yelled. I don't remember, but I just literally, it took almost like the life out of me in that moment. And then I remember as I'm down there on the ground, I don't know, I was on the knees, I don't know, but I just hit the ground and I was saying to myself, after a few minutes of letting myself have that moment, get yourself together and get up. You can't do this right now. You gotta be strong in this moment. And I immediately then was like, okay, where are the rest of the kids? Like, where is Devontae? Where is Makai? And someone had Makai, I think distracted him with a dog. I could see June still, he was trying to stand up. And it was like he just couldn't even get the strength to stand. And it was trying to get him off the ground. And I finally got to Makai and I kind of took him away because I just didn't want him around that chaos. I think Devontae was in the car with you, maybe in the back seat. But I just had, I literally didn't know why I was coming. And, it was just something that I'll never, ever forget. I can smell something in the air now, or there was times that I was triggered by um, fire trucks or whatever, just because praying like God. No, it could be they could be going anything, and I'm always praying that well, whoever they meet, that they be okay. But it was utter chaos because everybody out there was feeling this, and it was a feeling that I don't want anybody to ever have to feel. But I think it was just one of those things that we all were just literally knocked off our feet.
Absolutely.
Literally.
I often think back to when I did hear you, and I remember I call it a mother's cry, like the way you screamed, and it was just like, I felt it, and at that moment, Captain Davis and Alan come over, and they say, "We want to take you to your mother-in-law's house." And again, and I remember the pastor being there, and I remember looking at him and like shaking my head, and he had a look on his face like, "Huh?" And I was like, because I knew it, and he was with June,
Yeah.
and I just knew like it's just not good, and I don't know what I thought. Um, And then I remember us getting in the back seat of that car and traveling to my mother in law's house, which is not far. And again, a street full of people
Mm-hmm.
and her house full of people. And so we go inside, and I remember she has this little vestibule area, like, you just walk in a little hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember standing there saying, God, I still love you and I still trust you, but I don't understand.
Right.
And I felt, just all of these emotions. And I remember just like being there. And I remember Alan calling me back, and I remember him saying, "Did you have a candle? Was the candle on?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "What do you think could have started this?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know." And he was like, "Well, I see a candle in here." I was like, "No, that candle's never been lit. Um, it's not a candle." And I just didn't know what at the time it could have been. And later, and I remember, I don't remember much about Miss Lewis's house. I feel like it was you in the kitchen with me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was still quite a few. It was a lot of people like inside. I can't remember all that were there. Some church members. It was family. People were outside. Um, I know, like literally I remember y'all leaving because it was still so many people left behind. I had to give the names and the ages to Alan that night.
Really?
Um,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yep, people put me aside and he had asked for that,
Wow.
and it was just people everywhere. Still even after you all left, and then when we got to Mrs. Lewis' house, it's equally as many people. And I just remember you and June. I think you all were in the room after a while.
We were.
And
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember being in her bedroom, and I remember Alan coming back and saying, he came to just make the announcement of what we really already knew. And when he came and made the announcement, I remember June falling on the bed, and I feel like we held each other at the moment. And then I remember saying, I want to go to my mama's. I need my mama. And um, I just knew I needed to get to my mom. And I remember, again, Pastor Terry taking us to my mom's house.
Yeah.
And we get to my mom's house, and by now it's like, what, 4 in the morning, something like that. And I remember my sister, the news was on. And so by this time, I don't even remember. I know Aneka was there. I don't remember it. Tasha came because she was living in Raleigh at the time. So she gets the news. She gets there. I remember her being at my mama's house. And I remember saying to her, I remember her like not wanting us to watch the news because it was on the news, and she did not want us to watch it. And so I remember going and laying down, and it was me, June, because Felicia had come now. So Felicia had come and got Devontae, and so she had taken him back to Raleigh. And so it was me, Makai, and June laying in the bed, and I fell asleep. And at 6 o'clock, so mind you, it's like 5 that I fall asleep, and then 6 o'clock the phone rings, and it is UNC Chapel Hill. And what I thought was a bad dream had now really become reality, because they were asking for their eyes, their tissues, like all of those things. And I was like, I can't do it. And I remember her saying, ma'am, it's so urgent. Like, we need to know now. And she wasn't disrespectful or anything, but it's time sensitive,
Right.
And so they needed, to know those things. And it just made it reality. And I remember my sister Tasha like coming to the door to see like who was calling her, like what is happening. And it was just at that moment that it hit me like, this is real. And my children are not here.
And it literally felt like a bad dream. Like, this can't be happening. And I say that all the time. Like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe it happened to Abria and Chase. I can't believe it happened to my friend and her husband. Like, it's just like, it seemed like it should be someone else's story.
Right.
And not the people that and to be there and know it happened and still can't today even wrap my head around. This literally actually happened, and it still feels like a dream.
It does. It really does. And so I ended up, I remember getting up right after that. I remember just getting up, and right before I got up, Makai wakes up and he says, Mommy, I had a dream about Abria and Chase. And I said, you did? And he said, yeah. I dreamed that Chase had a burn on his forehead and Abria had a burn on her arm. And I was like, and so I get up and I go into the living room, and my mom, like, I needed her, I needed her at that moment. And so she was right there, and just trying to make sure we were okay. And I remember telling my sister Tasha, like, I was ready to take a shower. And I was like, we don't have any clothes. So on top of this, it was like another emotional meltdown, because not only have I lost my kids, but I have nothing, like nothing. And so I gave my sister my card, and I said, please go to Walmart and get us some underwear, some socks, a sweatshirt, some sweatpants and a t-shirt. And she did that. She went and got us some, something to wear. And then the week began. And so I remember 5 o'clock. Well, I don't even know what time it was. I won't even say 5 o'clock, but when the sun rose, I remember James Petaway, I will never forget it, was sitting outside, and my sister said he's been here for quite a while, but he was waiting for us to wake up or for the lights to come on or something. And he was there from that moment. He's just, and so I remember him being right there for my husband, like he just for us. But I just remember him just consoling June, and his brother Ron, like all of them. I mean, it's just so many. I don't even want to name because I will definitely mess up. But and I remember Edward, and I say this about Edward because I think they cried and held each other, like just the whole time. And I remember Mr. Fenner came with Pastor John Miles, and I remember them coming and praying with us, and just really. And then I felt like the whole Henderson just came and just poured into my family. Like I didn't have clothes. I remember Ivy Superville coming and literally had gone to Belk and bought me the best of the best, and just for my family. Like I was just so grateful. Just the kids, teachers, and I often talk about Miss Gooch. She was Makai's teacher at the time. And when I tell you Acock, Miss Boyd, all of them, like they were just so amazing. Like everybody was. I'm saying these names, but everybody was. And I remember as I would see people, it would make me cry even the more, because people, like I used to work at the credit union, so there were people from the credit union that I hadn't seen in years that were coming. It was just overwhelming. Like the people were so great.
Community, they felt that it was so huge that it was almost like there was no other way but to feel
right.
And I think people, and me being on the outside, kind of somewhat looking in, it's probably even bigger than what you even could see. Sometimes right. Because of you just being in that whirlwind. Even down to like people that are attached to people. So like my people were checking in and doing things.
Yes.
I'm sure that was happening for your sisters, your mom, and everybody. And so it really, really, truly impacted our community, and people really were being good, and sometimes so good that we were like, we have a little, we can look back at some things now and kind of laugh, but like that day it got too much one time for me.
Yeah.
And I had a meltdown in the back room because I wanted everybody to leave your mama's house because there was just too much going on that night. And it was just, my nerves and everything going on, and wanting you to, to get rest and things of that sort. But it really was. It was they can say what they want to say sometimes about our community in Henderson, but we do know when to come together. And there are times that we do, and that was a time that I saw that love and unity.
Tasha said that James Boca Jr. is what I call him. He knocked on the door at 6:00, and I remember it totally. I also remember that week. So it is now, and I remember June and I having this conversation about when to have the funeral, because you have to face those things. And I was so grateful. My sister, Tasha, did definitely most of the leg work and everything. And so we now have to figure out a funeral. And so that again was another hard part. But I remember that it was, I remember the day. Do you remember, June, when we went to Mary Davis? You don't? Well, I remember. And I remember being okay. Like I was okay. And we are going to Mary Davis. And we walk in the door. And then my kids' names are up there. You talking about just losing it again? Like it was like, oh my gosh. No, this is what in the world? To see your children's name up on a little market, whatever you want to call it. It was just horrible. It was horrible. And I remember sitting down with her and, us talking through the details. And I remember her saying to me, I'm going to pay for the casket. And I remember telling her, I want a purple casket and I want them buried together. I want them in the casket together. And I want her to hold her brother. And I want them in all white. And I remember her telling me, and I said, I'll go get their clothes. And she said, no, I'll do it. And when I tell you, like, she was,
She really is.
she was unreal. And so when we tally up the funeral fee, was it the Shriners? I think someone else had gone and like people were taking money for the funeral. You know, I didn't know, we didn't ask,
Right.
but people were just, you know, making sure we were okay. And had taken money to pay for the funeral. And it was such a blessing. And I remember his friend worked at Vance Granville, and he called and told us that, you know, Sunday is available, we'll have it here, you know, kind of thing. And he really led that Ricky Small, and he just took care of everything as far as that was concerned. And so it really alleviated a lot of stress from us. And so we didn't really have to deal with that part of it. And I remember also the whole week I couldn't eat. Did you eat?
No.
So for a week solid, we didn't eat and couldn't eat. And I remember Gloria coming to me one night and said, drink this orange juice. Like, you gotta drink something.
Right.
Drink this orange juice. And I was like, I can't even drink it. Like, I could not. And then my birthday was that Saturday.
Right.
And I wanted to have the funeral on that Saturday. And he was like, no, that will not be your birthday memory. And he would not allow us to have it on my birthday. And so I also remember my friends that are amazing, amazing. I know you did not leave my side. I remember Kim flying in from Chicago the next day. Talina, Jocelyn, Dee Dee, Natasha.
Even like didn't go back to a job. She just started something
Right.
like nobody cared in that moment. We literally did not care what else was happening.
Right.
In that moment, we just did.
And all of you all were there the entire time. Like, I remember Dee Dee has this pad with messages on the pad, you know, and so, but that was just a whole nother blessing because you all really showed.
And it's really in those moments that I know I felt like there's nothing I could do to help my friend. And that's I was there, but I felt like I still wasn't being adequate. There's nothing I can do to help her in this moment because the one thing that I would want to do, I don't have the power to do, and that was to bring them back. And it's just such a hard place to be in. Sometimes on the outside looking in, because you feel like nothing you do is enough because it's such the magnitude. But we were there being the little guard dogs.
Y'all were. Someone put a note on the door like they have to get some rest.
Yeah, we shut it down. You know, we tried to make sure that we could be the gatekeepers as much as we could. Just thinking of, you know, just giving you your space. And even doing that, knowing when to give you the space. And then it was like, well, how much should I check in? How much should I not? You know, I want her to know that I'm here, but I don't want to keep reminding her of it and things of that sort. So that was just something within itself that we probably all felt, and probably everybody that you know, that love you all feel like, you know, or whatever. But yeah, we had to make sure that we're in true form no matter what's happening.
I remember also and I have to go back to like Mariah's mom. I remember her being there that night.
Right.
And it's so crazy because Devontae was the one who called her to let her know, you know, what was happening in that moment. So Evangelist Felicia, I love you so much. And I remember Pastor Myron Henderson being there that night. And I remember someone saying, like, I remember a cousin say, I heard, you know, they were lost, or, you know, something like that. And I heard a pastor say, oh no, don't say that. And this was right before Alan had come and told us. And he said, the Lord save Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And, he was being encouraging. And I remember looking at my co-pastor saying, that was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's story, but it's not mine. And I knew that that wasn't our story. And I remember also like the day of the funeral. And I remember Phyllis coming to do my hair. And I asked Phyllis on her way, I said, please stop and get me something to eat because I don't want. She bought me a biscuit and I couldn't eat it. I tried to bite it, but I wanted something on my stomach because I hadn't eaten in a week. So, I wanted something on my stomach. And I remember being inside of the house and the cars showing up. That was another whole moment. And when the cars showed up, I remember like, I can't go out there. Like, I cannot go out there. And it was so many people outside. And I remember like, I don't want to get in that black car. Like, this is not my story. Like, what is happening? And I remember Miss Sandra Darensburg coming in the house and she said, baby, we got to go. And I was like, okay. But it was like I was just finding something. And so then she came back and got me. And so I came outside and we prayed and I got in the car. And I remember turning my face to the window because I didn't want my mom and kids to see me cry. And I cried all the way there. And it was the longest trip to Vance Graham I have ever, been in. It was so long. And I remember we went the way where we went down past Sunset Garden. And I saw Mary Davis Worcester set up and I thought, this is unreal. Like, that my kids, this is their final resting place. But I remember us getting to Vance Granville and seeing all these people outside. And I thought, why don't they let them inside? Why don't they just let the people inside? And we get out of the car and there are all the cheerleaders and football players there. And my heart is overwhelmed. And I remember crying again. And Makai hit me in the back and he said, Mommy, I thought you said this was a celebration. And it was like, it just, it was like a breath. Yes. And I was like,
for reference, he was what, 9?
9 years old.
Yeah, Makai was 9.
9 years old. And I thought at that moment, you're right, baby. This is a celebration. And so we go in and I wanted balloons. And I wanted to, so they had the casket and I remember Kanika had the cheerleading uniform framed and that was in front of her casket and there were all these beautiful flowers and I sat there and I thought, this is unreal. This is just unreal. And I remember, so New Life's choir sang and when they sang her favorite song. And so it was a song, Kevin LeVar. And it was, I don't even remember the song, but it says, King JC, Jesus Christ, will take care of me. I'm not afraid of the powers that be. And that was her favorite song. And so I asked them, could they sing it, or learn it? Because it wasn't like it was, one of the hits that I knew of at the time. And so they sang that song. And then I remember Evangelist Felicia Davis getting up. And when she got up, it just shifted everything for me. Because she said something like, now they said that they didn't make it, but I beg to differ because they made it. And that was what I needed. Like that statement shifted the whole funeral for me. So I went from mourning literally to dancing. And so that was the boost that I needed to say, you know what? They did make it. And so then June writes this poem. And when he wrote the poem, oh my gosh, it was as if Abria was speaking herself. And I just thought, and so Devontae was supposed to read it, but he couldn't. And so June read it. And then after June read it, I spoke. And
I say all the time, and I tell her this when we talk about this day, most of it is a blur. Like I don't remember anybody saying anything, but when you got up there and you told God, you know, that you trust him, I was like, oh, we can go home now. I don't remember anything that happened after that. And I remember that at some point a praise break did happen.
yes, yes.
But it was like, if she can stand up here and June can stand up there and do this, then we can go home now. I don't need to hear from anyone else.
Wow.
God had already shown himself in my eyes. So no shade to anyone, but I was just saying, like, it literally was like, I can get my purse and go home now.
Right.
Because this strength and, you know, that power that you all had is just, it's still amazing. It gives me chills when I think about it. Just how good God is and who he is when you need him.
Yes.
In the time that you need him and when you don't even know your own strength.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure you probably wouldn't imagine that you would be able to even walk in the place,
right,
much less get up there and open your mouth and praise God and tell him
right,
that you trust him,
right,
despite everything that you were feeling in that moment. And so I said this as a friend, and you know, sometimes people will, you know, I get to see y'all behind the scenes. I get to see what you all do. You know, people have their thoughts about people who love God and things of that sort, but I'm a little biased, y'all. I do know that, but they're real. And that's what I see when I see you all. And that's why I'm grateful to be attached to you all, because I can see the power of God and what he does. And I know that, you know, everything that you all went through was not in vain. As we can see, God can see way ahead of us. We don't know, and you're still doing things, and your story is still being written. It's a testimony that's still open-ended. It's still things that are still happening and evolving from November 9th, 2009, and it's bigger than any of us, right, you know. And it's just so I get excited about what God is doing and what's next. You know, right, where they're going to go next with this, because so many people don't move beyond the grief. People literally die a spiritual death. They're here on earth and they're just walking around and they're just existing.
Absolutely.
And they're you know, overtaken by the grief and the loss. And so to see God move in you all and the way that he has, it truly has, it makes me think sometimes, you know, Sean, be quiet, this little thing that you're over here having an issue about, you know, because someone has gone through something much greater, you know, and it could be worse. It
it's
always
the truth.
Can. So.
It's the truth. I often think back, because God has been good to us. I know we have cried on tonight because it hurts. I mean, and I miss my babies, regardless of what, I really miss them. However, through it all, when I tell you that God has been a keeper, something that, and I can remember the week of people bringing me medicine to take Valium because they just thought I was going to lose it, or telling me, let's get you to the hospital. And I was like, no, I don't think I need it. You know, I really don't. Like, and I never did. I never had to take anything. And I'm not saying anything is wrong if you have to, because if you have to, you need to. However, for us, when I tell you, he literally wrapped us in his arms, and I literally saw. So there's in the story of Job, you know, he's upset, he's hurt, he's all of those things. He says a bunch of stuff concerning his situation, but he never curses God. And he says, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. And I have literally taken that to be my testimony. Like, you know, I still trust him no matter what. But there's a part in the story where he goes to say, I knew God, but now I see God. Right. And I, at first, when I read it, didn't really resonate with me. But when this happened, it literally resonates with me, because I knew God before. I knew what they told me about God. I know they told me God is a healer. I know they told me God is a keeper. But I literally saw God. I saw him be a healer. I've seen him be a keeper. I've seen him make a way out of no way. Nobody can tell me anything against it because I know it to be true. And so when people try to say, well, I don't know, I have a coworker that I used to work with, and he was questioning God in some areas, and I literally had to tell him, there's nothing. What you read, all of that stuff, you can't tell me what I know,
Right.
because I've literally experienced it myself. And I told him in the situation that he was going through, I said to him, I'm telling you, you're going to see the hand of God in your situation too, and then you're going to understand. And if he was here tonight, he have that same testimony that he knows there is a God, because God did it for him as well. And so when I think back to where we were and where we are, it is nothing but God.
Right.
Like I can't heal myself. I can't provide for myself. I can't even keep myself. And the fact that we're in our right mind,
thank you, God.
it is all him. It is just
It's
all
nobody
him.
else but him, and nobody else can get that credit.
Nobody. And I won't even allow him to.
Right.
Because it's literally God. Like, and I feel like in our situation, like there are what I call man-made storms and God allowed storms. And I feel like for us, this is a storm. When I say man-made, it's something that you have created because of some choices you made in your life.
Right.
And now you find yourself in a storm. But then there are some storms that God allows so he can be glorified. And this is what I think, even in our situation right now, that this was a God allowed storm, that people could see that he is real and he will keep you. And so when I look back, no strength is mine, no power is mine. It's nothing we could have done to get this. It's all him. And so when people say, oh, y'all are so strong, or no, it's all him. It's him. The Bible says in our weakness, he is made strong. And so that is literally where we are.
So June, as the man of the family, can you just talk about your perspective? And I can say this because I got to witness a lot behind the scenes. June and Abria had an amazing relationship. One that probably most girls dream of having, a dad who's hands-on, who is cool, and she loved her dad just as much as she loved her mom. She was a daddy.
And can I say, it was so ridiculous because when they heard him come through that door, she would run to that door. And I used to say, she act like Jesus himself is coming to the door. And so when he came to that door, Daddy, like it was just, go ahead.
Just talk about just kind of like how you were feeling, because like this is your family.
Yep.
And that has to be a place of, I gotta do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm hurting too. So tell us how you got through that moment.
Yeah, well, no doubt, that was the worst thing that had ever happened to me. I mean, the worst. It was like a horror story. And but when I say, you said it best. Bria and I, we were really close. Like Ayan said, even at 12 years old, she came to me every day. Like, the boys, they was like, hey, Dad, but not her. She was like, man, she was everything. And so it's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard.
I'm sure.
Yep, it's hard. It has been hard. But like everything that Ayana said, concerning the community, great friends such as yourself. I just don't feel like we could have made it without it. We couldn't have made it without it. So now, as we continue to navigate through our reality, we just trust in what we believe, and what we believe in is the fact that the Bible says that to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Yes.
To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So it's scripture that's keeping us.
Right.
You know, it's the power of God, it's the spirit of God. It's being able to uh, talk to other people
Mhm.
because we didn't realize that it's so many people that have lost children.
Right.
So when we're able to, communicate with people, converse, we listen to them, they listen to us, and we just get so much strength, So, yeah.
So I want to say, we had Makai on earlier, and it was really, really, which I think he's still on, but probably behind the cameras, but it was really emotional for him. And I think, and I learned this early on too, I kind of set the tone for the family. And so when I speak, if I'm crying, and I remember this, and I have to say this too, so this happened on November 9th. Thanksgiving was the first holiday that we had without the children. Mm-hmm. And I remember us going to visit the grave. Mm-hmm. And I remember all of us standing out there, and I broke. I just started crying. And when I started crying, everybody started crying. And so I thought, let me, kind of hold it together and try to, just do a little, just better. And so I feel like on tonight, when I broke, it probably, just really had him very emotional as well. He's normally like his mama. I feel like, really strong and able to, just kind of,
And he is. He's strong. It was a lot for him as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have to say this. I'm glad you said that, because Devontae, I know people, they knew Devontae when he was little Devontae, and he's with Felicia, he's with us, kind of thing. But Devontae, oh my God, the pain that he experienced behind this is unreal. And so I oftentimes, I look at him now and he's still suffering behind this. Mm-hmm. And what you see, so when you see him now, what you see is because of this.
Right.
And he couldn't handle it, didn't know how to handle it. And I don't feel that he had enough counseling to handle it or cope. And so now, years later, he's trying to cope. And it is so hard for him. And he is struggling. So, but you have to understand, he was in a place where he tried to save them and was not able to. And so the pain of bearing that weight is a lot. And that is so much that he had to deal with. And so now I pray for him constantly because he's struggling. He's struggling. So all of you that know the words of prayer, please lift him up in prayer, because when I say he is struggling, he is struggling. How is he up there? Oh, is that Makai? Does that say Makai? I feel like it does. It says Makai. Oh, it's okay, baby. It is okay, son. It's okay.
So even with Devontae, so the portion, and I do say portion of this story that we have shared with you guys, is literally just a portion. There's so much more. This is kind of like what Pastor Jackson would say, the Reader's Digest version. Mm-hmm. So concerning Devontae, there was a point in this event that he tried. But when he put his hand on the doorknob, it was so hot. And anyway, it gets really, really deep.
It does.
And from Devontae getting Makai was sitting in the living room floor doing his homework, and he fell asleep. So he was asleep. So Devontae literally woke Makai up and took him outside. So Makai half asleep, they go outside, and by him being half asleep, he don't know what's going on. So when Devontae looked, Makai turns around and goes back in the house.
Yep.
Because he's trying to go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. But Devontae got him, again, and took him back outside. So Yeah, it's so much more to what we're saying. And
that he experienced.
yeah, yeah,
And I often say, like, for him, like, just being in that place, having to hear what he heard, see what he saw, you know, it was a lot, and it still is. And so the weight that he's carrying, and so we've had to just constantly, like, tell him, like, it's nothing you could do.
Right.
Like, I literally felt like, this is, and he is up here. Hey, honey.
Okay.
So yeah. So, like, this is not your fault.
Right.
You did not do this. And so that is what we have to constantly tell him. Like, it is just nothing you could have done. And so for him trying to cope, and here we are 13 years later, you know, because at first we went, you know, to have them, you know, evaluated, some counseling to see, and they were saying, oh, they're okay. They just had a moment to happen in a traumatic event to happen in their life. But we didn't know. For him, like, when he went off to college and, you know, he was there, like, all of that is hard for him.
Right.
And one of the things I remember is when he was little, when he, after the fire, he would have Makai to come into his room, sit on his bed while he took a shower.
Wow.
Because he was scared that
Right.
something would happen. And so all of these are things that happen, you know, are the effects of things that happen. And so I ask you all, please continue to lift him up in prayer. Yeah. So yeah, please lift him up in prayer. Lift him up in prayer because he definitely needs it. Well, that is our story. Oh, and let me say this to you too. So what caused the fire? There, we had a little space, one of those radiator space heaters, and maybe 3 days before this happened, because it was like November now, you know, yesterday hot outside and then today it's cold. And so it was really warm at the time. And I remember we had the space heater and I had plugged it up. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I smell something, and I smell oil. And so I wake June up and I said, I smell something. And so he gets up, unplugs it, pushes it in a corner, and, you know, that's it. But Abria, when she was in there with her brother, plugged it. She had to, you know, plugged it back in. And so I remember, like, the state bureau, the guy who was calling me at the time to say, like, I need this space heater, because at the time the space heaters were cracking in the middle and oil was seeping out of the heaters. And so he wanted me to do all this. I just couldn't. Right. I didn't have the energy to even try to fight anything.
Right.
Like, I just did not. I just couldn't do it. Right. And he was like, ma'am, it's I don't know if they were trying to do a recall or they were seeing it happen so much.
Right.
But I couldn't. I just couldn't even. I couldn't fight it. And so he would call often, and I could not. And so, but that is what caused the fire. The space heater is what caused the fire. And so that is it. That is our story. God gets all of the glory. He has kept us, and we are still here on today, and to God be the glory. He is a keeper. So if you don't learn anything else on today, learn that God is a keeper, and he is real.
Very much so.
He is real. I was trying to go back and read some of the comments.
While she's doing that, so this was what birthed what you see behind us.
Absolutely.
So so now we raise awareness for fire safety. It's just all of that. She's a talker. She can say everything. But that tragic event, that's what birthed the Abria Chase Foundation.
I really wanted to go back and read the comments, but it won't allow me to. LaShawn, will it let you read the comments? Yes.
All of them? Will it let you go down? Yeah, it's like too far. Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you all for listening to our story on today. Again, it's another moment that we share the goodness of God and how God gets the glory. I can see, let me see some of these comments that were made. We love you all too. We love you all too. Thank you for your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you all too. Um, Thank you for tuning in on tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hiding Place is the song. I love all of you all too. Thank you so much for listening to our story, being there with us. Um, yes, the pain has definitely produced faith. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Yes, 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 yes. It absolutely has. God bless you all too. Yes, my special friend LaShawn. Oh, we love you too, Janice. Um, yes, yes, I know I can bear it. Absolutely. If he allowed me to go through it, Tammy, I know it. Pastor Bird, we love you too. It is all God, all God. Um, yes, yes. So I think. Oh, yes, he was amazing. He is an amazing girl dad. Yes, he is. Absolutely. I wanted to show you all some pictures of our baby, but I didn't. I don't think I uploaded it correctly. So anyway, I'll put them on my page. I'll add some more to my page. But when I tell you, just beautiful in spirit,
Mhm.
And if anybody have any pictures,
please
yes, please
send them
share
to
them.
us,
Please share them
please.
with us.
My sister Aneka sent me a picture today, and I'm telling you, every picture I get is like finding gold.
Right.
And I had not seen this picture, and it's one that she braided her hair. And I'm telling you what, when I tell you, I feel like she was the most beautiful girl in the world. Absolutely was. And he, Chase, we talk about Abria because she was here for 12 years, but Chase made his mark in 1 year. And let me tell you, I know y'all got to go. We've been up here for a long time. But I just want to say this last little part to show the hand of the Lord. When Chase was 10 months old, so I breastfed all of my babies, but at 10 months, Chase had double ear infections. And I remember like taking him back and forth to the doctor, and it wouldn't clear up. He kept spiking a fever. He wouldn't eat. And I ended up taking him to the hospital. And I told my sister Aneka, because she worked there, I said, Aneka, I'm telling you now, if the doctor tells me that he's sending me home with my baby, I'm going to act up. So I want to forewarn you ahead of time so you're not embarrassed because I know you're at work. And so she was like, okay. So I go in, and surely enough, he says, keep on giving them the antibiotics. And I said, sir, I am not leaving here today until you help my child. And I mean it. And he ended up calling Dr. Cathcart. And Dr. Cathcart came over, gave Chase a shot of Rocephin, and told me to have him in the office the next day. And the next day, he gave him a shot of Rocephin again, and the ear infection cleared up. Now, where the hand of the Lord is in all of this is at that moment, he wouldn't breastfeed anymore. And so, because God knows what's going to happen ahead of time, can you imagine at 12 months, me still breastfeeding and then I don't have anything to feed?
Right.
And so I still have milk. So it was just, I see little things that the Lord did. Chase lived exactly 12 months to the day. Right. The next day on the 10th, he would have been 13 months old. Right. He lived exactly 12 months. The Lord gave him to me at a time that I needed him. Mm-hmm. I needed that baby, and he gave him to me. And so I'm so grateful for that. Mm-hmm. When I look back at Abria, we were able to find one of her notebooks, and we were able to read some of the comments that, her poems and stuff like that she made. It was absolutely unreal. And so I'm gonna close with one of her poems on tonight. I just think it's fitting that and hopefully I can find it up here, but I just think it's fitting. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to.
She's poetic like her dad.
Absolutely. Well, here we go. We have another miracle that has decided to join. So, oh, LaShawn, I can't pull it up. Stop, Gabe. Stop. Silly. I cannot pull it up. I thought I could. Well.
Gabe, Brianna said, hey. Brianna Teasley said, hey.
I thought I was going to be able to read y'all my baby's poem, but I can't. So I'll just leave you with the fact that she wrote both of the poems on her that were in her obituary. Yeah. Let's see.
Gabe, Miss Boyd said, hey.
I don't think he heard you. Okay. So I can't pull it up. I thought I was going to be able to pull it up, but I can't. But anyway, again, guys, thank you all for hearing our story on tonight, for hearing how great God is.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for whatever we're doing.
Name of what? It was from yesterday. So it's the two that she wrote in the obituary, Tasha. It was two that was in the obituary. Thank you for watching, Mr. Edward. Thank you. Gabe, Mr. Sharate said hello. I think I pronounced it wrong. This boy of mine, I'm telling you what. So, wait, is that it? No. Okay. Yeah. Well, guys, again, thank you all for watching us. Join us on Saturday. Please come out and join us on Saturday. I'm so close. Thank you. Please join us on Saturday at 5:00. If you have babies, children, whoever, bring them to the cheer competition at Vance Granville. We are excited. We have some dance teams, some cheerleaders. We have Henderson Collegiate Band is going to be there. So please join us on this Saturday. We have so many vendors that are going to be selling so many different things, from jewelry to lemonade to ice cream, body oils, all these different things that we have, wreaths and all of these different things. So I invite you to come out on this Saturday. Come on out and support. Please. Doors open at 4:30. 4:30. So please join us. Thank you for listening to our testimony. I hope you just know that God is real. God is a keeper. He is a healer, and he's still doing it. And like LaShawn said, he is still writing our story. The Bible says that he is the author and finisher of our faith, and he is still writing all of our stories. And so if you're listening to me on today, whatever you are going through, whatever you've been through, just understand that God is a keeper and he is a way maker. If somebody told me 13 years ago that I wouldn't be crying every day, I wouldn't even believe them. But I stand here on today and I'm not crying every day. And I will also say, you said another point, and I think this is so true. Before you waddle in what you think is the worst thing that could ever happen, always know that somebody else's story could be worse than what you think of. And I'm going to leave you with this story. After we had the fire, I literally thought, like, I had never heard of anything. It was just so bad to me.
Right.
Like, I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen. Well, I heard of this lady who lost her 3 children in a house fire. And after she lost her 3 children in a house fire, her parents were traveling, I want to say from Florida to Alabama or wherever they were traveling from. They were traveling to help her bury the children, and they had a car accident and they died. And so just when you think that your story is the worst, somebody else may have a worse story. And so again, I say, God, thank you. And I am going to share the poem because my sister, who is on it, has shared the poem. So my daughter wrote these. No, that is not it. That's not it, Tasha. No, sorry. That's not it. But anyway, somebody else's story could be worse. And so I just encourage you on tonight to stick with God. Stick with God even through it all, no matter how bad you think it is.
And we want to thank each and every one of you guys for being such amazing individuals.
And great supporters.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And even, through the week of the funeral, like, I don't feel like we were adequately able to really tell people how much we appreciate them and say thank you. And I say thank you because some of you all were with us then and are still with us on today. So thank you. We love you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining.